I read Wildcard by Marie Lu, and I also buddy read this with May at the Channel May Bank. The experience reading this book was a little different because when I read Warcross, I was in quarantine. It made it a lot easier to immerse myself in the book. And now that I'm back to work, I don't have as much free time, I guess, to read. Like, I mean, I can read. It's just that I'm just not as drawn to reading as I was in quarantine. Like, quarantine was just like, I had time to read, and when I read, I got really immersed. So it's a lot less kind of focus. I still had a good time buddy reading with May. We enjoyed the twist. We enjoyed the emotional depth of the book. Like, because that's, let me tell you, let's get to it. This book for me was a fun ride. It had even more twists and turns, and it brought up a lot of ethical and moral questions about, like, technology and the more it becomes implemented in our lives, which is so interesting because recently I watched Social Dilemma, the documentary drama thing on Netflix, and our current social media landscape, which is kind of different from this social media landscape, although this is kind of more of virtual reality in game, like, but it is very similar to social. It's like it's a part of your life so much. It is technology where you're able to connect with people, but it also kind of disconnects you from people. It's just interesting because, and then also too in this book there's a Neuralink, and then Elon Musk is coming out with a Neuralink that he wants to implant in your brain so that you could listen to music, which that feels a little shifty. That feels a little shady. That feels like if they wanted to like hack your brain, they can hack right into it, and that music that you're like, ooh, I can hear music in my head, it all becomes like a torture device. I could say I'm giving them ideas, but it's not like they haven't thought about these ideas. It's just a matter of, is anybody thinking about this before they actually take on this technology in their lives? And also I just like finished watching 3%, and they have like little technology that they put like in the back of your ear that's in your head, and they can like transmit and talk to you in your head, and it's just like, no thank you. Like, I mean, maybe in the future that'll become a thing, and then everybody's like, I have to have the new latest version of the implant. Very Black Mirror, but it's also like and maybe I'll be older and I'll be like old fogey, like, I don't want that. But also like the idea that that's gonna happen, there's a possibility it's gonna happen. Everybody's gonna be on board, and you kind of don't want to be older and like out of the loop because you're just like, back in my day we wouldn't do that. This book, I felt like it paralleled a lot to where we're at right now with just even more advanced technology embedded into the story. I even felt at moments when it came to people taking over technology, like somebody creating one technology and then somebody else could come later on who is about expanding and growth and what are some of the words that these business people talk, because they talk about like growth and leveling up, and I forgot what some of the words are because they use it in startups. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the word, and it is going to bother me for a while now, but you could comment if you know what it is, because it's about like when startups and businesses are like growing and they want to grow real fast. I don't like that because that's annoying. Because when you have a business or something, you're starting something, build a solid foundation. Because that's the thing. I worked at a company, I worked at a startup where they had been around, I don't know, maybe 4 years or something, and they had investors or something like that. They wanted to like grow even more, but I also felt like they didn't have the foundation built in to grow at the speed that they wanted to. And part of it was all because they have to like pay these, I don't know, pay or return on investment for these investors. It just didn't feel sustainable, but I guess it's still sustainable for them because they're still around, which I think is the situation with like technology right now. It's like the growth, it's growing exponentially fast, but to an extent there is kind of like a lack of foundation in order to sustain such rapid growth. There wasn't a foundation built in to say like, okay, we know how to deal with this kind of thing, or we can kind of think ahead. It was just kind of like it just went ahead and just kept going, and it just kept pushing straight forward. It's very, I don't know if to say a catch 22. I almost kind of like the quick forward trajectory of technology, because it's like we got so many interesting advanced things, like the great phones that we have, all these interesting things, like how so much further technology has come from like in just like 20 years, where I feel like in the 20 years that it took for us to get to where we're at, we probably would have been where we were like back in 2006. We'd have probably just been there now. Where we are now would have been where we are in like 2040 if it had gone, I guess, a little bit slower. That's the good part. We get to experience so much at this time in our lives. We get to experience so much of the great aspects of technology now, but also we have to deal with the fallout of like being addicted to our phones and technology, and being addicted to social media. And it very much seems silly that it's like, oh, I'm addicted to going on Facebook or Instagram or on Twitter, but our brains, for some of us, our brains are reprogrammed, and it kind of sucks to think that I'm not as in control of myself as I should be. I don't have the willpower that I wish I had. I should have more, or I have it. Like, you know, who's to say that I'm not gonna let this thing control me? And it's so in your head at this point that it's like you don't even know it's gonna, and it's so insidious because it started off so like, you know, it's just a thing, it's fun, this is exciting and interesting, and you're not taking it seriously like that. You find yourself realizing that, oh my gosh, like if I don't have my phone with me, it's a panic attack, anxiety, it's getting weird. You're reaching for things, you're checking your phone if you don't. I'm not saying anything new that nobody else ain't know, but it's still like, it's just so interesting, you know? We're so addicted to social media, and we're so addicted to the technology that we have. It's beneficial, but it's also like, now we have to readjust and reroute and reprogram how we are dealing with and how we're working with technology. And this book kind of tackled that a little bit with trauma and drama and terrible things, but Hideo turned out quite nicely, better than I actually did, because I thought it was gonna be like he was just gonna be on the bad side of things. But you know, it was good. I thought things were gonna turn out bad for Hideo, but it turned out well. No, actually, no, things didn't really turn out too bad. He got a redemption arc. You'll have to read the book to see what happened to Hideo, but it turned out not like how I expected, and I appreciated that. And the Rashawn and Tremaine drama, you know what, I'm gonna spoil this part. Rashawn came in, and I thought like, oh, Rashawn said she got a new man, such and such. I was here for it, but apparently he still had a feeling for Tremaine, and then we got backstory on Tremaine, and part of me was kind of like, yeah, that's cute. He comes from but also was kind of like, girl, I don't care, like I don't feel like you two should be together anyway. I don't care how noble his decision was on why he wanted, I just didn't want to see it. But they got together and it was cute, and they did their thing. It was a cute story for them. Like, I appreciated his backstory, and it justifies them getting back together, but I'm still like, I don't know, I feel like Rashawn should have moved on and been with somebody else, you know, somebody finer. And you see, that's the thing. I feel like in my head, I don't see Tremaine as fine. Tremaine's not fine. Now, the dude that Rashawn was with in the club, he looked fine in my head, okay? And I felt like, bitch, you should have, that sounds like ring finger tease, sis. That sounds like where you should be, honey. That sounds like he gives good dick on a regular basis, okay? So you should be over there. That's what I'm thinking. So, but you know, if you feel like Tremaine is the one you should be with, I guess you could do that limp noodle if you need to, but whatever, girl, I'm not, whatever. But aside from all of that, all of the technology and moral and ethical discussions, I thought that the plot itself, it had like at least 3 different plot arcs going on that happened within this story. Like, I felt like so much happened in the story. I found out recently that Warcross is going to be adapted. I'm not sure if it's going to be a movie or a TV series. I think after reading this, it should be a TV series because so much happens in here that you could afford to like drop like a 10 episode Netflix thing. You know, like the first book could be like 10 episodes and this second book could be a whole nother 10 episodes because so much happens. Like, it's so rich that you can't condense this into like a 2-hour or even a 4-hour movie. Like, there's just no need for that. There's not like 2 2-hour movies, and like, no, Give it a full series, flesh characters out, flesh storylines out. Give us the Rashawn and Tremaine, and give me a fine ass Tremaine if you're gonna give me Tremaine and Rashawn, okay? Give me fun. And another thing on characters, like maybe I read it wrong or I forgot who Hammy was from the first book, or I kind of mixed her up with another character, but I thought she was from Spain. But I think she might actually be from Harlem, like Spanish Harlem, but because sometimes I felt like she was talking. I don't know how to process, because sometimes I felt like she was talking like she's from like the hood, like she from the city, but then sometimes it felt like she wasn't, or maybe that's how I thought she was. I thought she was from Spain, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing her talking like kind of a little bit slangy. Like it wasn't like super super slangy. I would have noticed. I would have told you straight up, like sis, she was giving a lot of slang, and Marie Lou was like either giving it up real good, or it was just like, girl, what are you doing? You didn't need to give her slang. You did not need to give her AVE. I don't know. Maybe I need to reread Warcross and like really pay attention to Hammy, because somehow I don't know why I thought Hammy was from Spain. Maybe it was another character from Spain and I kind of mixed her up with Hammy at the same time. But either way, I enjoyed the plot. The plot was just really thick and it had a lot going on. It kept me like, keeps you very entertained, keeps you very immersed. I enjoyed the setting. It was great to be back in this setting, in this world, experiencing this technology, just seeing the world change. You come in and it's familiar, but you also get to experience other parts of this world. I'm very, very much looking forward to the adaptation of this book, seeing it come to life and seeing all that technology, all that color. Like they better not, like they really need to not like mess it up. Don't fuck it up. Do not mess this up. Like I want to see this world come to life. I want to see Amika with her rainbow hair coming to life on her skateboard. Like do it. Turn it out. I want to see Hideo, like all of his muscles just like in your face glistening, and it's like on a fucking like weight bag, just and it's like he's got the little like the little like scars on his, oh my gosh, and I think I'll try to reread this again, like I guess right before the adaptation comes out, just to kind of refresh myself, make sure that I get Hammy's like background and origin correct. Is she from Spain or not? I don't remember. I won't lie, I just wish I was still in quarantine and I just had the day to myself to be able to sit down and read this thoroughly and really engage with it and get immersed with it, get immersed into it, and not have to be like, oh, I read it like on my way home, kind of have to take an hour at night to like read it. Like, no, I just want to be able to like sit and read it straight through, because it feels like a nice, fun, immersive, straight through read. It is great for that. I will say, because I've heard this before, people say that like Wildcard's not as good as Warcross, but it's still a good book. I can't really say that it's not as good as Warcross, because I still have to take into account my reading experience at the time of reading this, like what's going on in my life while I'm reading this, so maybe that has something to do with it, but then maybe they are right that this isn't as good. I'm looking forward to the adaptation, to rereading this, and I'm looking forward to hearing what other people who have read this, what they think about it. Tell me that in the comments. I would love to hear that. Like, tell me what you think. Just, tell me how you felt, what you thought, what's going on. And I'm here for it. It might be some voice. Come on, let's do this. Come on, let's talk about it. So thank you for spending your time with me. I had fun reading this. Shout out to my homegirl, May Bonk. I had fun reading it with her. I had fun discussing it with her. And she's a sweetheart. Definitely check out her channel. And I'm at this bitch like Fleek the fuck.